Hey there, you leg-humping maggots, it's me, the Forbidden Thinker, and today we're making a video response to Sandman. Let's see what he has to say about the whole subject at hand.
Hi everyone, Sandman here. Today's video is brought to you by a donation from Dennis, and he didn't give me a specific topic, so I wanted to give men out there a warning about how women can turn you into a walking, talking zombie. Inside every single woman out there are hormones called copulins that are used to drug a man and control his mind. This isn't some sort of conspiracy theory.
And here we reach the twilight zone of MGTOW stupidity and bizarreness. Roll the new intro.
And when I first heard about this, it reminded me of the original film, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where aliens come down from another planet and take humans and turn us into pod people. When I first heard about copulin hormones, I felt the same fear. And according to the article that I'm putting in the description called, the vagina produces a thick fluid known as copulin that has actual mind control effects on the male's brain. If a man is exposed to a woman's copulins over time, she will be able to, number 1, change, remove, or insert memories into the man's mind. Number 2, tell the male what he sees, hears, feels, smells, and tastes. Number 3, insert subconscious thoughts that will surface as his own ideas or behaviors later. And finally, number 4, plant trigger words or actions that can cause thoughts, actions, or sensations in the male at later dates, i.e. weeks, days, or even months.
When it comes to his claims regarding the pheromones, I really don't believe him because here's the thing. Let's look at his little article here. Well, I've looked at the article and it turns out there's no scientific data that actually confirms this. Like, in any scientific article or paper, you'd expect some sort of citation or some sort of link that would go to another scientific study or source that would back it up. But in this case, we don't see anything. What's worse is that when it comes to Sandman, he neglects to realize that when you look up the author, there's no credentials or any scientific sort of backing of the individual. In fact, the individual that wrote the article is also very opinionated, given the screenshots I took right now. So I can easily dismiss whatever he says, because this isn't a article that's backed up by science. If it was, there'd be links to scientific proof that this would be the case. In this case, it's not, because it seems more of a hocus-pocus thing than actually confirmed true. So, this is why I really don't believe in Sandman's little story about pheromones somehow controlling men and it's being done in a way where it's led to mind control. And why do I get the feeling that you literally just read off of the article at hand? Which I don't particularly mind or care if you do that, but it seems too robotic, just based off your voice, which is why I can't really take you that seriously. Only on the basis of the voice, which is very rare for me. However, my advice is try and avoid saying like, "Hey there, Miss, I'm Sandman here," and just avoid talking like a robot, because that really does put off people, because it makes you sound like a robot in my eyes. But other than that, I really am skeptical of the idea that these hormones are somehow linked to mind control. Like, here's an analogy that I can definitely explain to you. There's this bit of coffee on the other side of the room. That coffee smells good, and just because it smells appealing and all this sort of stuff, I still have the ability to say no to the coffee. I can still walk away and go to, say, the store and grab myself a soda instead. And I feel like that copulence would probably be the same thing, or just at least the pheromone itself of what you're basically describing. But of course, I would imagine you would disagree, and you would basically be saying that it's a strong enough mind control thing that nobody can resist, which is obvious coming from you. You'd most likely say that in front of me.
That's what the article has to say, and it's kind of scary. So at this point you're asking yourself, How do I protect myself from a woman that's trying to do this to me? And the easiest way to do this is to wear a condom. If you wear a condom, then the copulent hormone won't enter your penis and start to influence you fully.
I really don't think that would work because you did describe it being a pheromone. And how would wearing a condom actually protect you from that? Just asking, because wearing a condom does not protect you from a smell sort of pheromone. Just saying.
I say fully because simply being around women, they're releasing these hormones into the air all the time. Apparently they smell like butter, which is the smell I've noticed whenever I'm in a place where I notice girls walking around in their mid to late teenage years. And I'm guessing that those are the years when they release the most of these hormones.
Two things I find weird about your statements. You believe that they release it in the air, which is, I really am skeptical of that because you're sort of implying that literally every single woman is releasing these hormones in the air. Wouldn't that mean everybody's mind controlled to an extent? Which, if that's what you're implying, then damn, you are crazy. That, and you're also disturbing because you basically described how or what you smell out of people, saying that people smell like butter in your eyes, especially girls or women. So that to me is kinda disturbing to me because a man that pays close attention to females like that and describes them to like smelling like butter. I'm not judging. I'm just saying it's just weird. So okay, we'll have to watch more of the video.
Hormones when they're approaching their peak fertility. And I believe that it's quite likely that most white knights and manginas have sniffed and been exposed to a little bit too many of these copulent hormones, and thus they can't control themselves and can't behave. They could be under a form of feminine mind control and completely unaware of it. This is something that I've been increasingly aware of.
It goes back to my analogy being that no matter how much that coffee smells, I can always say no. And the second thing I'm going to say is that you officially lost your marbles because now you're equating that if this hormone exists and if the hormones are airborne, therefore somehow everybody's mind controlled and has no impulse control and no ability to really control themselves. And yep, you definitely describe yourself as a crazy person from this point on, so now I can't even take you that seriously that much. Granted, I never really took you that serious because with that voice of yours sounds very robotic-like. But you definitely take the cake on being crazy.
The last few years. That simply being in the physical presence of an attractive woman starts me to alter my behavior, and it goes beyond social and mental conditioning. Almost as if I've started to go into autopilot, and I'm looking after their needs. But besides just sniffing copulants in tiny amounts that are in the air all around us, there's a more powerful delivery system for them that you probably aren't aware of.
Okay, you're basically describing what would happen if, say, you left MGTOW and you really started believing into this pheromones controlling you mentally and psychically, basically. And ultimately, you really did describe yourself as a crazy person because basically what you said is just being near a woman will make you act in a certain way, which that tells me a bit about your mental state and certainly what you really think about the whole case, which I find to be crazy. But let's continue on with this video.
Apparently the female genitals squirt fluid into the male member, and that's how you get STDs. But that's also how the copulants get inside you as a man, and how the female version of the Jedi mind trick works. On the other side of the coin, if a woman swallows sperm, it actually cures morning sickness. So more pregnant women might actually think about spending more quality time with their men. And semen entering a woman's body in any way supposedly boosts serotonin levels and acts as an antidepressant. Even sperm act like a utility for women. Women get the Jedi mind control vagina, and men get simp sperm. How's that for ironic? Now I'm going to read to you how exactly the vagina monster is unleashed to control your mind through something called coupling. So here goes. Through the process of coupling,
ultimately there's other ways that you can get STDs other than that. It really sounds like you've never taken the JedX classes or classes that are oriented towards sex education, and certainly what can happen if you get infected with STDs, and how do you get infected with STDs. There's more than one way, Sandman, so I'm a bit shocked that it sounds like you've never taken sex ed classes, basically. But let's continue on with the video.
A female and male will lay relatively still without having sex with the penis inside the vagina. The process may take up to 15 minutes and work faster and more efficiently when the female is on top of the male. And during this period, the vagina injects up to half a cup, or 100 milliliters of the copulent fluid, into the urethral opening of the tip of the penis, which is chemically attracted to semen, and will follow the semen down the shaft directly into the testicles. After 15 minutes of coupling, the copulins will have entered the bloodstream and traveled through his testicles up into his hypothalamus, a section of the brain that controls hormones, causing the male to be completely influenced by the needs and suggestions of the female. So let me warn all of you guys listening out there. Don't enter a woman's vagina and overstay your welcome, because if you do, then you might actually have to deal with your own version of the invasion of the penis snatchers. And the article goes on to say this: some women report having conflicting issues of morality concerning coupling, as well as the effects of copulence producing a false sense of happiness in the male. And others more.
And you're basically just describing basically what happens with sex. That doesn't imply mind control, because people still have the ability to say no to that and the ability to even stop after a while. Still, there is a thing called free agency, or the ability to simply not do it or stop midway. Granted, there are people that have absolutely no self-control, and those are the dangerous people. But of course, everybody has the ability to say yes or no to that sort of stuff. And you're basically describing partly what sex is.
Boldly state that they see no problem with coupling and have coupled with their husbands while they were asleep. This is usually done in the morning when the male is naturally erect from a relaxing night of sleep. And women have given testimonies about the influence of coupling and what effect it's had on their husbands. For example, they routinely do all the housework and are far more eager to spend time with the children. So besides the possibility of turning men into zombies, it also turns them into beta males. But I want to warn you guys out there not to talk to women about coupling. In fact, I'm even scared to bring this topic up because there are women listening to this right now, and some of them are probably thinking to themselves, "Thank you, Sandman, for teaching us how to control our men." The more time a man spends with a woman and has sex with her, the more his brain will be turned into putty in her hands. And I'm not just talking about when a woman supposedly couples with a man by sitting on his penis. According to the article, over time, the presence of a woman's distinctive copulins and hormonal sense becomes addictive to the male, which is why a young emperor or prince is often given a large number of
And you made the biggest mistake of actually airing that online, because I'm pretty sure if you didn't want women to find out if that was the case or not, the one thing you shouldn't have actually done is actually posted on YouTube, you dum-dum. Assuming if you were right, of course. But still, you're kind of a dum-dum for putting it on YouTube to begin with, because I'm pretty sure the reason why you said you don't want to talk about it with women, I'm getting the feeling that partly you don't want to talk about it to women because they'd most likely laugh their asses off in front of you, being that you're this dumb and crazy, but more or less you're this insane. But let's continue on with the video.
Emails that he could rotate between, never allowing himself to become addicted or under the spell of any one woman's copulins. So there you have it, folks. People have known about these types of hormones for many centuries. Obviously, they didn't know about the science behind them and how it works, but they knew something was going on. In my own life, I've rarely had sex without condoms, even in long-term relationships. And I'm sure that to some extent it protected me from the copulins, but most of my partners basically wanted me not to use condoms. And I've also fallen asleep during sex many times, and I'm glad that I was wearing a condom, because if I hadn't, who knows if I had actually coupled with her and woken up with the urge to become a permanent mangina. And none of my friends have coupled with their partners or wives either, as far as I know, so the second link in the description actually describes one guy's experience of coupling and his thoughts about it. So let me read this to you as well. And remember that the rest of his comments are in the second link in the description, so let me read that as well, and remember that most of his comments are in the second link in the description, but let me read the most important part. He says, "I did this one time with my girlfriend, and she literally looked like a different person to me all night. It's very difficult to..."
Honestly, I'm going to end off the video here duly on the fact that At this point, I feel like everything that Sandman's position and certainly the opinion of what he thinks has already been said at 5 minutes and 48 seconds. However, I will say this, you're definitely paranoid and crazy, and this kind of explains why you don't want to tell women about this in particular. I think you're afraid of actually telling women about this due on the fact that they would see you as crazy. But, of course, you made the idea of actually posting on YouTube, which is publicly available on basically everywhere. And not only that, you've basically described female hormones as mind control, which I have to say, that is downright insane. That's just as insane as a certain individual I almost forgot about. I can't remember who he is.
Angry MGTOW here, and feminism caused 9/11.
Anyways, I might consider doing part 2 at later dates. See ya for the next video, and stay tuned for more videos.